Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be having an update on our upcoming system that will bring in major issues across parts of the central and eastern U.S. It will bring a winter storm for parts of the Central Plains up into the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. This system will also bring flooding issues, and this could be significant across parts of the Laurel Ohio Valley. It will also bring some high wind issues across the Tennessee Valley vicinity, and it will bring severe weather issues for the Southern Plains into parts of Dixie Valley to as far north as the lower Ohio Valley region as well. We do have a lot to talk about here on the system here, so it's going to be a long video. Before I get started with this video, if you do like weather related content, you can always subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here on a time on this channel here, and we'll definitely have more updates on this in the incoming days as well up to this event. So we're going to get started with the watch warning map display, and there is some things out there already that is for the next system, which will be beginning on Friday night into Saturday. These blue boxes here are winter storm watches. You got winter storm watches from central Kansas into north to southeastern Nebraska, northern Missouri, southern Iowa, northern and parts of northwestern Illinois, and a couple of counties in southeastern Wisconsin. This is where we could see at least several inches of snow. And some places could see double-digit snowfall amounts as well. Another area that be for the upcoming event is in parts of Kentucky and some of the adjacent states. In those green boxes, that's a flash flood watch that's in effect in those areas in here. It does not include far southeastern Kentucky, but most of the state of Kentucky could be seeing flash flooding issues during the day on Saturday. Another thing is that's interesting with what's going on right now. We actually have severe thunderstorm watch in the parts of Georgia and South Carolina as well. We did have a couple of tornadoes today, and these about severe weather might have um, overperformed just a little bit as well. So I'm gonna forgot to put up here as a tab. It's the Storm Prediction Center Outlook. So let's check this out here first before we get to everything else. So we have a slight risk for severe weather across southeastern Georgia and parts of southern South Carolina. Got a march risk for some of the surrounding areas. And as for the rest of tonight, low end tornado risk, but the main threat it will be damaged winds, and there could be some hail with some of those storms as well. Day 2, which is tomorrow. Now, keep in mind, this is mainly for tomorrow night. Keep in mind that this risk is mainly for tomorrow night. Just keep in mind that. We do have a slight risk for severe weather for southeastern Oklahoma through parts of Arkansas, northwestern Tennessee, into southwestern Kentucky, with a marginal risk across parts of really anywhere from northern Texas all the way up into parts of West Virginia, and North Carolina as well, or in just general parts of the southern Appalachian Mountains region. We do have an elevated tornado threat, and then again, most of this will be happening overnight, and eventually we'll be moving into day 3. So this is kind of the end period of day 2. That's when this is going to be happening, which is mainly going to be overnight. So you got the elevated tornado threat, elevated wind threat, and also have that risk for some hail as well. And then you move on to day 3. We got a large slight risk area for parts of northern Louisiana, eastern Arkansas, the northern half of Mississippi and Alabama, northwestern Georgia, most of Tennessee, and southern Kentucky. Now, this may get shifted a little bit further to the west here. Malls have been trending a little bit slower with this system here as well. Now, it's probably surprised some folks here that did not go in hands. Well, this is actually for good reason why they may maintain slight. And honestly, for what I'm going to show you guys here, they may continue to maintain the slight here in the next update here. Also, it would not surprise me if we do see that. But let's first check out the winter side of things. So we'll check out the NAM model, and then again, showers of thunderstorms in the southeast. That's from the remains of the system that we experienced yesterday, which, by the way, yesterday did underperform a little bit, which is some good news there. We can hear some good news for once out there. But anyway, a lot of snow is going to be happening in the Rockies, but you got this low pressure system to be coming out for Colorado. And you can see here, this could have a pretty good icing event here. There'll be a mix of some freezing rain and sleet as well. That's part of the reason why we have a winter storm watch a little bit further south is because we have an area that could see heavy sleet with some freezing rain involved as well. So there'll be some ice accumulations out there as well. And just north of it is some heavy snow as well. Now the NAMP does bring this low a little bit further north. So this is 18Z on Saturday. You got a 97 millibar low in Severn, Missouri. That will continue to move on into the northeast. But then again, this low is going to be a little bit too far to the north here. I think it's going to be placed a little bit further south. And this is really the uncertainty really comes in already is the placement of the low. It really changes up pretty much all threats here. Really, depending on your low track, the threat's going to move as well. So if it's further north, all the threat's going to shift further north. If it's further south, all the threat's going to shift further south. So you kind of get the idea here of where this low track is going to be. And then again, that's going to be very important is where that low is going to track. And the NAMP doesn't show much of any convection out there. There could be some capping out there as well, which may lead to higher instability values as well. And then again, a lot of snow on the backside of its low here, getting up into parts of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, southern Michigan, into far northern Indiana as well. Seeing that heavy snowfall threat, and you can see how that moves up into parts of the northeast as well, which pretty much for people that border the Canadian border could see some snow out of it as well. And right around this point here, you do have a line of some thunderstorms that do develop along that cold front from really it has as far north as southwestern Pennsylvania. But then again, I don't think we're going to see severe weather that far north. The NAM with the low pressure system is just too far north. But I think it's only going to be as far north as probably central Kentucky. I think that's about as far north as it's going to get. And maybe into parts of southern Illinois and maybe southern Indiana as well. But then again, I think that's as far north as it's going to go. And a second low will be developing on a cold front as well. This signal has come back before we had a low pressure system developing along that frontier a couple days ago. It went away. Well, it's now trying to return, and NAMP does show that low. But I think that snow is pretty aggressive there. That'd be insane for Kentuckians to experience, and even for Tennessee too. Go from severe weather to a winter storm in 24 hours. That's pretty insane. At least 24 hours, just to say. But that'll be something to watch for now as well. So let's check out the snowfall totals, and you do see here you got that pretty good swath here from northern Kansas all the way up into southern Michigan, and it has a widespread, looks to be 7 to 10 inches of snow with isolated 12 to 14 inch amounts out there. And I do believe some of your highest snowfall totals are going to be placed in probably somewhere in southern Iowa and northern Missouri, maybe get into parts of northwestern Illinois. But, that could change. But that's currently looking to be where the bullseye is going to set up, at least for now. It's been like that for a few days now for that bullseye potential. That's probably where we're going to see a lot of the snow. And keep in mind that some of these snowfall amounts are probably going to be a little bit overdone, but the potential is still there. We could see at least double-digit amounts, so at least 10 inches of snow is certainly possible for some of those areas as well. Here's a high-risk dam, and this is also going to be overdone in the snowfall bounce. This is the catch area ratio, and it does show a lot of snow out there. Up to 18 inches of snow, it's not going to happen, but you do kind of get the idea where the bullseye's going to be. It's actually a little further southwest with it as well, so that bullseye may be expanding a little further southwest. But then again, trends will be monitored on that as well. And you do see how those snowfall amounts do back off as you get into parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, and eventually to Michigan as well. Really backing off the snowfall totals up there as well. And here's the GFS model with the snowfall totals, and you do see a very similar scenario. And honestly, I think here's a little bit more of an accurate picture here. It does have the bullseye more focused in the parts of Kansas and Nebraska, but I think it's going to be more focused in parts of Iowa, northern Missouri, and maybe into parts of northwestern Illinois as well. And then again, that's where I think where the bullseye is going to be. But then again, trends will be monitored on this one here on the snowfall potential as well. And here's the European model, and honestly, it's way too low with the snowfall amounts. It's got as high as 6 to 8 inches, which honestly, I think we're going to see higher snowfall totals than that. So that's the winter side of things out of the way. Let's talk about the severe weather side of things, and this is going to be a little bit complicated, so bear with me here. So we're going to start it with the HRRR model, and honestly, I think it's pretty close to 0Z at the time of making this video. 83%, I think we could deal with that. So let's check out the latest run of the HRRR model, and you'll certainly see here how things are going to pan out. So let's just get into Friday night here. You do see your convection is starting to develop along a stationary boundary, which will be setting up for parts of northern Texas all the way up into the Lower Ohio Valley. This is where your flash flood threat does begin, which we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But you do see here how these thunderstorms, especially on the southern end, really do develop, and these are the ones that have the potential to become strong to severe. And I'll say the main threat may be high wind, and there could be an isolated tornado threat out there as well. You do see here from the HRRR model, it does show some stronger storms, especially back into parts of northern Texas and southern Oklahoma. And the time on this is really getting into the morning hours on Saturday. And we definitely have to pay attention to these cluster thunderstorms as well. That could increase that damage to wind threat as well. And you do see here how these storms really start to get organized, but what we also do notice is these little kinks in the line. So it does have a QLCS tornado threat along that line. But there is a problem here if you really want severe weather. There's one issue I do see here. Not a whole lot of convection here. That may be due to some capping out there as well, and it could be a messy mode as well. But check out up in Kentucky, it is very messy up there with those multiple rounds and some showers and thunderstorms that could go on for hours. So that'd be quite a concern up there as well. Let's check out the instability values here, and this is also going to be another problem or limiting factor, I should say, and it's the fact that we have lower instability values here, which we'll wait for this to load. And you can see here, the instability values are pretty limited out here. Really anywhere from 500 to 1,000, which would be decently favorable for severe weather. But the greatest instability is probably going to be more focused in southern Mississippi, parts of Louisiana. Although this does look a little bit better than its previous run. Well, but if, yeah, it did. Never mind. Uh, Never mind what I was going to say. But anyway, it does look a little bit better than its previous run, which honestly I feel like this is what we're going to see again. If you remember from past severe weather events, the record-breaking derecho in the Midwest and the historic tornado outbreak back in December 10th and 11th. You've noticed here the models early on show lower instability values. That was a limiting factor. And as you get closer to the event, they slowly uptrend with those instability values. Can we see that happen again with this? It's a possibility, but it'll be interesting to watch. We do have to certainly monitor those trends very closely here, and I'll say anybody that's at least 500 joules per kilogram can see severe weather. Just given about how much wind shear is going to be out there, the Lova jet will be screaming, especially across parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. It's going to be pretty strong out there as well, which is really going to help elevate those wind shear values. Here's the supercell composite here. You do see here, you got pretty elevated numbers here, really going as far north as the Tennessee-Kentucky state line. And you can see how these elevated numbers really go across most of Mississippi, but you do need some type of lift mechanism further south. And you can see here, even going deeper to the evening here, check out how far north the favorable environment goes. It goes up to central Kentucky. And that's a definitely noticeable trend I've seen here with these higher resolution models. It does seem like that the northern end of the risk here is uptrending a little bit as well. So that's going to be something we got to watch for. Really, any discrete cell or thunderstorm that develops out ahead of this cold front or this line of storms has the chance to become a supercell, and some of those tornadoes could be on the stronger side as well. If you do check out those significant tornado parameters, they are elevated out there as well. And that's why typically it's overdone with significant tornado parameters, but even take it off by 1 and 2, it still shows that significant tornado risk, even though if you take it off by 1 or 2. So we still got to keep an eye on that as well. And going back to instability, since it's still updating here, it's only 91% complete the time making this video. Still plenty of instability out there as well. And here's the updraft helicity swaps here. And this really kind of gives you an idea where some of your stronger storms and where the storms have the potential to try to rotate. And you can see it, there's a lot of it back in northern Texas, southern Oklahoma, through Arkansas, and eventually some of it will start to pop up into Kentucky and Tennessee as well. And also I got a feeling here that the severe weather risk little first half maybe downtrending a little bit here. I think it's starting to become a little bit more focused to the north. But then again, the HERS not fully through the event, so I could be wrong on that. But it'll definitely be something to watch as well. And this is the run previous, by the way. And you can see here, this is 1 o'clock here, and you can see our instability values were not very high. So instability could be a limiting factor out there as well, which is a possibility. Let's move on to the NAM, and this is the superset composite here. And then again, I think it has it way too far north. You can see here it has the highest superset composite numbers up to Severn, Illinois and Severn, Indiana. If we've seen the HER model, it only has as far north as, if you live in Kentucky, you probably know the Burgos Parkway, Interstate I-64, or the Western Parkway. That's kind of where the HER model has it there, and the NAM has as far north as parts of Severn, Indiana. Honestly, I'm not buying the NAM here of how far north it is. I think that's way too far north. It's been a little bit. It's been an outlier ever since it's got in range. So we're kind of falling on maybe a little bit further south. So I don't think Severn, Indiana, or parts of Severn, Illinois, will see a significant severe weather risk, and I don't think Severn, Ohio, won't see a severe weather risk either. So then again, I think someone's going as far north as probably the Ohio River bordering Indiana, Kentucky into central Kentucky. I think that's about as far north as it's going to get here, just like the HERS said on there. But and it's also slower as well. That's another thing I want to mention. It's also very slow. Honestly, I think that's too slow, in my opinion. You can see our 18Z here, and the HER model at around 18Z was a little bit faster. So then again, I think the NAM is a big time outlier for this event, at least for now. At least for now. Models could trend that way at any time. So we'll have to watch for some of the newer runs in the upcoming few hours or runs or so. So that's definitely something to watch as well. I may as well get a sounding out here. At least one sounding. So let's check that out. And I believe this was Tennessee and Kentucky state line. And you can see a pretty good environment. Wind shear values, the story to felicity numbers are pretty elevated. Usually I like it over 300 to head the potential strong tornado threat, which yesterday's event, we didn't quite get that high with the story to felicity. At least if I'm correct. The highest I've seen was over 200, and we didn't really see a strong tornado. Well, actually, there was one, possibly, so confirmed in central Alabama. But I was not able to then look into the current environment back at that time. But I know at least the enhanced risk area, it was only got as high as at least 200, and we did not see a strong tornado up there, at least for now anyway. Damage surveys are still continuing in those areas. But anyway, usually I like it to be at least 300 when it comes to story to felicity amounts. And that's where that'd be favorable for stronger tornadoes. That's at least double of what you would need for an actual tornado, which is 150. So we do have those numbers out there, and you do have plenty of instability, 1,000 joules per kilogram. Hey, that's doable. And you got a good hodograph. This will be a favorable environment for tornadoes. So those could be as strong as well. Downdraft Cape is a little bit lower in Lap rates, especially low lap rates, is actually pretty good for some severe weather as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be 7. It could be 6.5 or above. So that's pretty decent uh, lap rate values there as well. Let's check out the high-res NAM here. And you'll see here on reflectivity, you got those multiple rounds of showers and thunderstorms trending over some of the same areas a little further up north. Honestly, I think it's a little bit underdone with the convection that will be going on in Oklahoma and Arkansas. I think there's going to be more in those areas of there. So, but you do see your line of storms really start to get its act together a little bit as well. It also takes it pretty far north with that low pressure system track as well, almost similar to the NAM model. So then again, I still believe it's a little too far north. But you see here, as we get to the evening hours, you got a pretty good line of storms along that front as well, stretching from Kentucky all the way down to parts of Mississippi and Arkansas. So, and those could contain a risk of damage to winds and the possibility for some QLCS tornadoes. We do need to pay attention to that as well. And you can see here towards the end of the run, they get a little bit better organized. Some scattered cells starts to develop in Mississippi. But you still got that pretty good squall line continuing through Tennessee, Kentucky, eventually reaching to parts of Alabama as well. Let's check out the superset composite numbers. It'll take a moment to load. My internet's a little slow. It actually does have a pretty decent environment a little further to the north here, so we may need to watch Kentucky a little bit early on when storms first develop. Like this is the overnight hours, so we do have elevated values with the superset composite. And I think K values will be lacking a little bit up there, but there's a low end risk for severe weather up there. But check this out. This is at peak time heating, so this is getting to late afternoon, Saturday into the early evening hours. You got a pretty good environment out there from parts of Kentucky, generally the lower Mojave region, all the way down to near the Gulf Coast. Now, if we do go down to the Gulf Coast now, there has to be some type of lift mechanism. There won't really be a cold front down there. It's actually going to be a little bit further behind. So the outflow boundary from those storms there, for what's been going on with, won't be getting down as far south. You still really need a lift mechanism. Also, what I see in the sounding here, there's a little bit of mid-level capping as well. So that's also going to be a limiting factor as well. So despite having elevated wind shear values, and pretty much good with everything, you you don't have a lift mechanism down there. But then again, we'll keep a risk of severe wear down there just in case if we're wrong about that. But it'll still be something to watch down there for now. We can see that severe weather risk all the way down close to the Gulf Coast. But if you go a little further north here, this is in southwestern Kentucky, which unfortunately these are some of the same areas that got hit hard back at December 10th. So this is bad news for them, unfortunately. Here's the sounding further north. It even has some middle of a capping as well. We'll have to wait and see whenever that cap breaks. Now, if the cap kind of holds there, that weaker cap, that'd be bad news. That could lead to a little bit more of a significant squall line of storms that form along that boundary and continues to move quickly to the east. So it's not a really good scenario. Now, with that boundary there, that's likely going to blow through this weaker cap here. But with this cap here in place, that's going to let those disability values get higher. Especially if you get breaks in the sun, that's going to be a problem. Check out the relative Lissi values. You got almost 600. That's pretty darn high. I mean, that really is. Dew point values would be favorable, 64. That'd be pretty favorable for severe weather as well. Here's a rapid refresh. You can see a pretty decent environment up into parts of the lower Ohio Valley. Again, to the overnight hours, we may have to watch for that area. It's Friday night. Here's it getting into Saturday. And then again, the severe weather risk may happen pretty early on in the day here. Let's get a sounding in northeastern Texas here. That form along that boundary. And you can see here, K values is lacking, but there is going to be a decent amount of wind shear out there as well. So there could be some severe weather, maybe as far southwest as parts of the Dallas to Fort Worth area. So we could see that possibility as well. But as we get later into the day here at around peak time heating, so late afternoon to the early evening hours, it's got a pretty good environment in parts of Mississippi and Alabama, maybe getting as far north as parts of Tennessee. Almost for I should probably show you guys some significatory parameters on the other models. Almost forgot to do that. I'll only show you guys that in a little bit. Um, you can see here, pretty decent environment further south as well. Story to felicity numbers are pretty elevated. Pretty good hodograph. You know, it's a pretty good solid hodograph. Cape is a little bit lower, but like I said here, over 500, you do have a severe weather threat. With a type of environment like this, it won't take a whole lot of instability to get severe weather going. But let's check out them significant weather parameters real quick. And then again here, take it off by 1 or 2 with the significant weather parameters here. That's kind of what you get here. And even taking off of those a little bit, taking those numbers down just by a little bit, them significant tornado parameters will still be a little bit up there, at least favorable for stronger tornadoes as well. So then again, we still got to watch for that threat as well. Let me backtrack a little bit. Forgot to show you guys the significant tornado parameters. And again, still got a pretty decent threat out there as well here. What the highest NAM does suggest. Higher numbers further south here, but then again, you need a lift mechanism down there. The battery won't get that far south really until the cold front passes through. So, but it does show some pretty good parameters up to parts of Kentucky. Well, really, the Lower Ohio Valley region in general. You can see the numbers really get elevated down in northern Mississippi and parts of Tennessee as well. So we do need to pay attention to that as well. And here's the NAM. It's actually not as high here than what some of the other models suggest, but it does show some elevated numbers out there as well. Let's check out some other models. Let's check out the European model for a preference. And these are the models are a little bit further south. It's the medium range guidance. And that's kind of what we're kind of following along with, at least for right now. So this is 5 a.m. in Eastern time. You got this cluster thunderstorms, and these are trending over some of the same areas. So you got that flash flood risk already ongoing in parts of Arkansas up into southwestern Kentucky. Here's 9 a.m. You can see here. Then again, the thunderstorms trending over some of those same areas. You can see that pretty high risk for flooding. And here comes your low pressure system. At this point, it has it over Fort Worth, or Fort Smith, I should say, Fort Smith, Arkansas. By 9 o'clock in the morning, you got some pretty good thunderstorms just off to the south of it in southeastern Oklahoma, northeastern Texas, eventually entering to Arkansas in the morning hours. So then again, the severe weather risk could happen pretty early on in the day here. Here's your instability values, and it's pretty low, but it does show some elevated numbers at least along that boundary as well, at least getting up into parts of Kentucky. So strong severe storms may be possible along that cluster of thunderstorms as well, which is something we got to pay attention to as well here. Here's 12 o'clock here. It's not very impressive with those instability values, and that could be a limiting factor again. But then again, it's medium range guidance. Really, at this point here, we should be paying attention to higher resolution models. But these models here have been very consistent, so still got to kind of follow on the medium range guidance as well. Here's 4 o'clock as well. Still keeps the most of the instability a little pretty far to the south here. And honestly, I think this is going to be an outlier with the instability here. I think it's going to be a little bit higher as well. Here's the GFS at around the same time. Pretty similar to the European model as well. And here's the icon. It's also similar as well. So that's pretty interesting solution for the medium range guidance as well. Even the icon model with the low being a little further north doesn't have those instability numbers for up north. So pretty interesting solutions as well. And let's check out the load of a jet. It's going to be pretty strong here, especially when you get further north. So let's back this up a little bit to 9 o'clock in the morning. You can tell already, we got a ridiculously large warm sector out here. I mean, the low of a jet's going to be strong. There's going to be plenty of wind shear for everybody. So wind shear is definitely not going to be lacking on this setup here. But what is this going to be? And again, those instability values. Let's check out the dew points at the same time. And you can see here, the dew points are going to be up there as well. Pretty much mid to upper 60s for most people, but as you get further north, it'll be low to mid 60s, especially when you get as far north as that boundary, which you can see it right there as well. And that's the boundary where we can see training of thunderstorms. So that's where we can see the significant flood threat as well. Going back to the European model, pretty similar. Here's the GFS. It's a little further south here. It's actually a little bit slower with the low as well here, but as we do get later in the day, it actually has as far north as Tennessee, which is interesting as well. And here's a high-res NAM, has it way up there to the north as well, mid 62 points, up as far north as Kentucky as well. But then again, you got that strong low-level jet in place, which you can see here at 5 o'clock here from the high-res NAM. Strong low-level jet for up north here, especially across the lower Ohio Valley region, the Tennessee Valley. Even for areas further south than that, it's still going to be a pretty favorable low-level jet for areas further south as well. So it's not just going to be these areas for up north, but most of your wind shear is likely to be placed on the northern end of the risk area. Here's the European model with the low being a little further south, which you can actually see that boundary right here. That's where your boundary is for those thunderstorms to develop. If you go a little bit earlier in the day, you got that strong low of a jet up into parts of West Virginia. I think that's how as far northeast it's going to go. It's probably into parts of West Virginia as well. Could see some severe weather out of this as well. So that's an area we may need to watch for too. Here's the GFS. You know, pretty similar to the European model, strong low of a jet for everybody. So then again, definitely not lacking on the wind shear. Another threat that's going to be involved here with this setup here is going to be at the surface. Without thunderstorms, showers of thunderstorms, it's going to be windy. If we go back to 1 o'clock, likely some of your strongest winds is going to be underneath that strong low of a jet. That's where it's going to be. And you can see here, in this area in here, you got wind gusts anywhere from 45 to up to 50 miles per hour. And miles are typically overdone when it comes to wind gusts, so maybe take it off by 5 to 10 miles per hour. And that's probably a little bit more of an accurate way. So maybe anywhere from 35 to maybe as high as maybe 45 miles per hour, I would definitely say would be your range. Here's the European model. It's actually very similar to the GFS, a little bit more widespread with it. But then again, it still shows those stronger wind gusts out there as well. As high as the GFS, 45 to 50 miles per hour for some people as well. And here's the high-res NAM. This is likely going to be a little bit overdone with the wind gust. But then again, underneath that strong low of a jet, it's actually a little bit more accurate here this time. But anyway, it's got wind gusts at some places a little over 50 miles per hour, which is pretty high. And then again, in same way, getting to the 5 o'clock hour as well. And then again, it has the highest wind gust further up north. It's no surprise. Here's the ICOMO, which is actually the highest. And what's interesting about the ICOMO is that it's typically some lower than some of the other models. It's a little bit more accurate. So seeing wind gusts this high from the ICOMO, stuff you don't typically see very often. So it's a very interesting solution, but I still believe that's going to be overdone as well. So just to keep in mind of that as well. Those strong wind gusts could go down all the way down to parts of Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. A lot of people definitely see stronger wind gusts out there throughout the day. And let's check out the HRRR model, which would go back a little bit. This is going to be its previous run, by the way. It's not going to be the 0Z run. This is going to be the 18Z run. So here's 10 a.m. Stronger wind gusts for everybody, and this model is also typically overdone when it comes to wind gusts. But check out that corridor of some very strong wind gusts in northwestern Tennessee, up to 70 miles per hour. Yeah, that's certainly strong wind gusts, but that's going to be overdone. But really, for everybody else, it's anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour. And I think some people could see that potential to see wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. I think cannot rule that out, but for a widespread area in general, probably 35 to 45 miles per hour at best. And there could be, then again, isolated areas that could see wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour, maybe a little bit higher than that some places. Then again, that'll stay pretty isolated as well. So that's also going to be another issue out there as well. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is the flash flood risk. And you can see here, here's the NAM model. Honestly, I disagree with this here. It does have the higher totals further to the southeast, but this is the model that's pretty far to north, and this doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. Even if it's going to be further north, I think those higher rainfall totals could be further north, so I do believe the NAM's going to be an outlier. Here's a high-risk NAM, and I think this is much better than the NAM, but still lacking back in Arkansas. But either way, it does have the highest totals up in Kentucky. It's got some places could see close to 5 inches of rain. So again, that's a lot of rain out there. Here's the rapid refresh as well. And this is not even for the entire event. Keep in mind that. It's not for the entire event. It's got anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rain as well. And let's check out the herd model as well. This is the 0Z run. It's got some of the higher totals further back to the southwest, but it still has the general idea. Some of those higher rainfall totals, generally anywhere from 1 to 3 inches, which honestly, in my opinion, I think some of these rainfall totals are underdone, just given by an amount of how much moisture is going to be in the atmosphere. And with some of those elevated instability values, these thunderstorms are likely to be pretty organized along that boundary, and they're going to drop a lot of rain. So worst case scenario is that you could see training thunderstorms for several hours. If that's the case, you could see several inches of rain. So that's something we also got to really pay attention closely as well, and that really depends on what the low placement here. Which then again, the NAM has a little further north. Which honestly, in my opinion here, where the low's going to track, it's probably going to go for northwestern Arkansas, southern Illinois, through southern Indiana, eventually get into parts of south central Ohio. I think this is where it's going to track here, and some of those heaviest rainfall totals, it's just going to be a little bit south of that. So I think right here in this pink circle, that's where we're going to see some of those higher rainfall totals. And then again, we could see isolated areas. Well, in other, let me rephrase that. Uh, some places could see up to 5 inches of rain. That's a lot of rain. And National Receivers of Louisville mentioned the possibility of 5 inches of rain as well, and that's certainly a lot of rain for one day. If we check out other models as well, especially with the European model being a little further south, you can see here with some of those higher rainfall totals. It's got rainfall amounts up to 4 inches in some places. GFS likely underdone. And here's the ICON model, and I think this has a little bit of a better idea here. It's got rainfall totals close to 5 inches in some places as well. And I think the ICON model has a little bit better handle with that as well than the rest. Here's the Weather Prediction Center's outlook here for the excessive rainfall. We already have a moderate risk out there, and people in the moderate risk should definitely pay attention to the flash flood risk. That's where we could see high rainfall totals. Then again, talk about probably a widespread 2 to 4 inches, and some places could see up to 5 inches rain, or maybe a little bit more as well. So that moderate risk comes from north central Arkansas up to central Kentucky. So if you do check out the rainfall total forecast from the Weather Prediction Center for the next 3 days, you can see here it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain. So a lot of rain's going to be in the forecast for this upcoming system as well. So kind of overall and everything here, kind of put into this little bit of little map here. I forgot to do something here, and that's the low pressure system track, which I know I've shown this already. But if you haven't seen it, here, I'll do it again. So there you go. So I think this is what's going to happen here. So the areas of the blue color here, winter storm is likely. Some areas could see, I know it says 12 inches. I meant to put 10 inches of snow in there. So some areas could see at least 10 inches of snow, especially across parts of Iowa, Missouri, and northwestern Illinois. In the screen shade here, which I know it's hard to see, let me get a different color. It's right in here. Probably going to put it a little further southwest than that. You can see here, this is where we could see 2 to 4 inches of rain, and there will be isolated 4 to 5 plus, and that's a possibility as well. Just to keep in mind that. And then you got this large yellow shade. We're anywhere from southeastern Oklahoma, northeastern Texas, all the way up into parts of Kentucky and West Virginia. All this is where we can see our better potential for the severe weather threat. And some could be significant. Keep in mind that some of it could be significant. And this is valid from 7 a.m. to midnight Eastern Time. We'll have to watch for areas across parts of the Mid-Atlantic down to Carolinas for Sunday, which we could see that severe weather potential for some of those areas up there as well. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this long video. If you guys like this video, hit the like button if you really do like my channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.